Let's imagine a scientist named Maria. She has spent her entire life in a black and white laboratory, studying the neurophysiology of the color red. Now she knows this color so well that she literally remembers all the information associated with it by heart. She knows the wavelengths of all colors, understands the psychology of the color red, is aware of which neurons transmit signals from the retina to the brain, what happens in the brain during this process, and overall, she knows about the hormonal, electrical, and mechanical changes that occur in the body and in the surrounding world when perceiving the color red. In summary, when it comes to the color red, she remembers everything. I believe that's the case. For example, the researcher Guy Deutscher, the author of the book Through the Language Glass, conducted a fascinating experiment to explore how the world looks different in other languages. He raised his daughter, making an effort to never draw her attention to the color of the sky. Then one day, he asked her about the color she saw when she looked up at the sky. His daughter didn't have an answer. To her, the sky appeared colorless. Eventually, she managed to assign it the color blue, but it required some effort. The ancient Greeks also did not have a word for the color blue. Homer described the sea as the color of dark wine in his works. And apparently in his works, other colors are mentioned multiple times, but blue is simply not invented. Did the Greeks see the sea differently from us? The linguist Jules Davidoff set out to investigate this. He visited the Himba tribe, where blue and green are designated by the same word. Now, here's a puzzle. Which of these rectangles do you think is different from the others? It's obviously this one, but the Himba people take significantly longer to identify it. They have to scrutinize and compare each square much longer. Why? Because they don't have a specific word to distinguish between blue and green. This experiment has been replicated many times. If Maria has been seeing the color red all her life and then started to systematize and record her observations of it, she may gain a new level of understanding of this color. However, it's important to note that her new understanding will be different from what she initially studied. Studying and perceiving something from within, in real life, can add depth and specificity to the knowledge Maria already had about the color red. She can take into account visual, emotional, and contextual aspects that cannot be fully grasped through theoretical knowledge alone. This may lead to a more comprehensive and enriched understanding of the color red. However, it's crucial to understand that even after her direct experience, Maria will have only her own impressions and experiences, which she can describe and share with others. But this doesn't guarantee that her new understanding will be entirely complete or objective. Understanding color and other aspects of experience always remains subjective and personal. This highlights the fascinating influence of language on how we perceive and categorize the world, including colors. It demonstrates that different languages may have distinct ways of naming and distinguishing colors, which can affect our perception and understanding of them. The presence or absence of specific color terms in a language can impact how people perceive and differentiate shades of color. The example you provided, where Russian has distinct terms for light blue and dark blue, illustrates this point. Similarly, the presence of more color categories in the Altai language compared to the Chinese language highlights how linguistic differences can influence color perception. It's a compelling reminder that language plays a crucial role in shaping our perception of the world, from colors to spatial relationships, and even how we categorize objects. In some cases, despite our constant interaction with objects, they may remain elusive to us due to the limitations or specific perspectives imposed by our language and cultural context. For example, our own experience. Much like the pygmies for whom the sky and grass are the same color, we often struggle to differentiate anger towards others from anger towards ourselves. We may not fully understand the reasons behind our own actions, the emotions we go through, where we make mistakes, what improves our lives, and sometimes, we don't even attempt to examine the nuances of our own moods. We don't truly know ourselves, which is why for the past 5 years, I've made an effort to journal something almost every day. To see oneself, you can only do so by describing yourself, and this is supported by science. By describing our own experiences and events, we construct a coherent narrative about ourselves. We develop a sense of who we are, how we live, and what we want. This process fosters increased self-confidence and enhances productivity. His uncontrolled emotions increasingly transform into meaningful, comprehensible expressions, and what was once a previously concealed black hole within his inner world is now illuminated by a bright flashlight. Imagine that you've never seen your reflection, and then you look at yourself in the mirror. At that moment, something extraordinary occurs. It's as if you're peering behind the scenes. Just like the diary, the mirror serves as a window into our inner world, making us aware of the existence of things we hadn't even suspected. This is why our stress levels decrease, which is reflected in brain activity and reduced levels of stress hormones. We rid ourselves of anxious thoughts, depressive symptoms, cope with psychological trauma, and recover more quickly from psychiatric conditions. It is indeed hard to believe, but the simple act of recording one's life on a sheet of paper can help us heal physical injuries more quickly and reduce symptoms of conditions like asthma and arthritis. It can also improve blood pressure, lung function, liver health, and the immune system. In general, it may sound like science fiction, but it's scientific fact. However, what personally interests me is productivity and intellectual abilities, which also improve through journaling. For example, in a study conducted in 2001, researchers had participants keep a diary for a week and then measured their working memory. It turned out that their working memory had increased, meaning it functioned better. This is confirmed in other studies as well. It's not surprising because our minds are constantly cluttered with unprocessed information, and when we put it on paper, our minds become clearer. Your memory is no longer burdened with an endless stream of facts, feelings, events, plans, and emotions. It is indeed hard to believe, but the simple act of recording one's life on a sheet of paper can help us heal physical injuries more quickly and reduce symptoms of conditions like asthma and arthritis. It can also improve blood pressure, lung function, liver health, and the immune system. In general, it may sound like science fiction, but it's scientific fact. However, what personally interests me is productivity and intellectual abilities, which also improve through journaling. For example, in a study conducted in 2001, researchers had participants keep a diary for a week and then measured their working memory. It turned out that their working memory had increased, meaning it functioned better. This is confirmed in other studies as well. It's not surprising because our minds are constantly cluttered with unprocessed information, and when we put it on paper, our minds become clearer. Your memory is no longer burdened with an endless stream of facts, feelings, events, plans, and emotions. Now, these thoughts are on paper, and you can focus on something important. That's why people who keep journals tend to improve their grades, miss work less often, and recover more quickly from difficult life circumstances. In this context, it's not surprising that individuals like Leonardo da Vinci, Einstein, Mark Twain, Marie Curie, Churchill, Benjamin Franklin, Darwin, and countless other great minds kept journals. It's one of the most powerful self-awareness practices I know of. Okay, how do you go about keeping a journal? And if I'm too lazy to type, I turn on a voice recorder and record my speech. Although, at times, my entries are filled with complex sentences and linguistic nuances, and at other times, my journal resembles financial reporting. The most important thing is to turn your inner world inside out and lay it out in front of you. That's how I discover myself, and I hope you will too. If you have watched very carefully up to this point, thank you. I would like to ask you only to subscribe to our audience and support from your side. Good luck.